Dr. Joe Dispenza's work is, in a word, powerful. However, as a highly sensitive person, his retreat experiences are really intense. So in this episode, I'd like to share with you my insights from an advanced retreat last summer, along with what I wish I knew before I attended. I do this so if you are considering going to one of his retreats or not, this will help you. Or if you've already decided to go, how to make the most out of what could possibly be one of the most life-changing experiences for you. Blessings. My name is Brenda Carey, and I'm a holistic healer for highly sensitive souls. Allow this time to be a sanctuary for you, where you can soften, heal, and reconnect to your own inner wisdom. I am so grateful that you are here with me today. I have been familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work for well over a decade. And when I was struggling through a chronic digestive issue, which later became an autoimmune condition. And despite trying many different modalities, both Western medicine and Eastern and alternative, nothing really stuck. Nothing really worked for me. And I started identifying myself as this chronically sick person. Dr. Joe's work allowed me to shift that perspective along with other modalities that I had learned from yoga and meditation to recreating into this new self or a new personality of having optimal health and well-being. So I credit much of my healing journey to some of his work, which has expanded so much over the years. I was hesitant to go to one of his retreats because I had heard, and maybe you have as well, that they are very loud, there's lots of people, very dynamic, also very transformational, very powerful. Miracles happen. So I was really enticed with going to an event where on a collective level, we were raising our consciousness and changing our vibration within ourselves to create healing and wholeness. And I think many highly sensitive people can really resonate with that. However, painting a picture of what his retreats look like is, yes, lots of people, lots of energy around me. I attended a retreat in Denver at a large hotel last summer, and there were close to 2,000 people. And when we came into that space, I sat in a regular hotel chair that didn't have the arms on the side, and they were all right next to each other, row after row after row. So if you can create that picture in your mind, along with 4 large movie screens where Dr. Joe's lectures were projected or different images were up on the screen. So yes, very overstimulating for someone like myself who is very sensitive to noise and lights, and I think you can just imagine what my hesitancy was. Would I be able to take on that much stimulation without being totally depleted at the end of the week? My answer is yes. With some solid prep work, you can absolutely have a powerful, life-changing experience. And I also think that highly sensitive people, we are wired for this type of vibration raising experience. And it actually doesn't take as much effort and energy as we might think. I'm going to share with you 3 things that I think are essential in order to prepare for this transformational experience if you decide to go. First thing, and I'm going to put this first, and I know I'm not the only person who says this about Dr. Joe's voice, particularly in the meditations. As I mentioned earlier, this is meant to be a vibration raising experience. The meditations are not meant to be calm or soothing. So Dr. Joe's meditation voice is more commanding and a bit monotone, which I know for many people, including myself, it's not really my preference of how I might like someone's meditation voice to be. I mean, even on my own channel where I have many meditations here, my voice is soft and soothing. And I'm just going to say his meditations are not that. And so it was a practice for me. That's how I took it on. Before I went to the retreat, I would listen to many of his meditations and get used to his voice. And it's possible. Initially, it was kind of like nails on a chalkboard. I'm going to be really honest. But I would notice my opinions come into my mind, which is just my ego trying to speak like, ooh, I don't really like that voice. And I would just notice it and be like, but it's okay. I'm safe. There's nothing life-threatening about someone's tone of their voice. And I'm going to transform from being in meditation. So that is my first suggestion. Get used to his meditation voice. There are a lot of meditations where you can practice with that beforehand and also practice being in meditation for longer periods of time. There are long days on retreats. One day in particular, we started at 4 a.m. That was only one day. Most days start at like 6 a.m. and they go well up until dinner with short breaks in between. So before the retreat, I would definitely recommend getting used to sitting. Make it comfortable for yourself, but be comfortable with sitting for long periods of time, listening to his voice. That's key, especially if you are very auditory like myself. The last thing that I would have you practice before you go on one of his meditations is, especially if you are an empath and you absorb the energy of people and the energy and feelings around you, have ways to ground and protect yourself. That is key. In fact, I did that before the retreat and every time before a session at the retreat. And if you're not sure how to do that, I will put a video where I describe empath empowerment in the description. I would highly recommend that you have some kind of plan of how you are going to protect yourself from the many energies of possibly, like for me, up to 2,000 people in one room. Now, during the retreat, so if you've done some of this prep work, gotten used to sitting in meditation longer with his very commanding style of voice, and you have an empowered plan, especially if you are empathic for yourself, during the retreat, because there are long periods of time of either lecture or meditation, use the breaks to your advantage. And by this, I mean, get outside if possible. For me, it was, summer in Colorado. So after either a meditation session or a lecture session, I would get outside and be away from people as much as I could, help clear the energy, maybe move my body, but something where I could just release any of the energies that I had taken on. Also, even during lunch breaks sometimes, most of our lunches were in smaller rooms, but in round tables with groups of people. Sometimes I would choose to eat lunch by myself. I just needed to decompress and bring my journal sometimes and write down my experiences to really process the deep experiences. The final thing that I'm going to say about the breath work specifically for a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat is this. It's not a relaxing breath. Again, it's more to be a dynamic breath to activate the pineal gland, which heightens our intuition and having mystical experiences. So when Dr. Joe instructs this, I kind of felt like it was almost like a football coach. Not that I've ever played football, but it was like, try really hard and like make it happen and make it really forceful. I'm going to add, as a highly sensitive person, we actually don't have to try that hard. In fact, I think that can kind of backfire. All I really needed to do was, yes, engage what are the yogis call the bandhas, or these locks, these energetic centers in our body, put my focus on the pineal gland, which is connected to our third eye up in the brain, it didn't actually take that much effort to have a mystical experience. And this is where I think highly sensitive people, this is our wheelhouse. And so we are able to create those mystical experiences by producing our own DMT rather than needing a psychedelic to do it. I had my own psychedelic-like experience during a Dr. Joe retreat without taking any substance. It was dynamic breath work, it was intention, and also beautiful music. If you are like me, I can get wrapped up in just the beauty of powerful sound frequencies. That's also another really added benefit for a highly sensitive who loves sound. So yes, there is a lot of chaotic sound with all the people. However, in the meditations, there's also a lot of beautiful music that I think you will really resonate with. Finally, my last suggestion, and this is after the retreat. So a retreat is usually 7 days long, depending on travel days, not including those. I would really recommend taking at least a minimum of 1-2 days to decompress after the retreat. So my hope is that you don't have to jump right back into work or whatever daily life looks like for you, but that you have at least a day or two to decompress from all the stimulation that went on to help ground yourself again, especially if you're an empath, and to integrate what you've learned. At this point, for me, I was journaling a lot and just the thoughts were pouring. Actually, a book idea came out of some of that integration time. I also started to get really vivid dreams. I tend not to always remember my dreams, but weeks after the retreat, I had some of the most powerful dreams. So I would keep a dream journal and write them down. So that's my experience. I would highly recommend that a highly sensitive person go to one of these. However, make sure that you prepare yourself in a way so that when you do enter in, you feel really grounded and empowered and you're not taking on the energies of other people. But I also think that the interest will come for you in the right time. It took me probably 10 years before I went to a Dr. Joe retreat. By the time I read his books and did his meditations, it took me a while to decide, and that's okay too. So I'm curious for you, if you have gone to a Dr. Joe retreat, what was your experience? Like, what was your biggest takeaway? And if you are still unsure of whether you want to go or not, and I haven't answered a question of yours, please feel free to put it in the comments. I would be happy to answer it if I can, because I do feel like the more information that you have going into it, the more life-changing experience you could have. As always, blessings on your healing journey.